My name is Clara, and I thought I understood what family meant. But everything I've been through in the last few weeks has shown me that I was wrong. I thought I could save us, but I was wrong. I was standing in the kitchen when I heard Michael's voice, a sharp edge to it that immediately made my stomach drop. My brother, my only family left after our parents passed, was looking at me with eyes that seemed to pierce through everything I thought I knew about us. "You really think you did the right thing?" Michael's voice cracked like it had been waiting to break for a long time. "I don't need your help anymore." I blinked, the words too heavy to process at first. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat, the shock of what he just said making it hard to breathe. "What? Michael, after everything. I saved the house. I saved us. What are you talking about?" He crossed his arms, standing there like a stranger, his gaze colder than I could ever remember. "It's too late for that, Clara. You should have let it go. Should have let it go." The words stung more than I could have imagined. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me, like I wasn't even standing on solid ground anymore. Let it go? This house? This family? Everything was on the line, and I had risked so much to hold us together. And now he was telling me I shouldn't have even tried? Should have let it go? I repeated, my voice barely a whisper, full of hurt and disbelief. "What do you mean by that? I was doing what was right, Michael. I thought you would—" "You thought I would thank you for it? Well, you were wrong," he snapped, his face contorting with frustration. "You think you're some kind of hero for fixing everything? All you did was drag me into your mess. This whole thing's your fault now." My throat went dry. I couldn't even respond. The betrayal felt like a slap across my face, and I stood there frozen, trying to process the words, the anger, the betrayal coming from the one person I thought would never turn on me. The anger built up inside me, but it wasn't just anger. It was confusion, hurt, and an overwhelming feeling of betrayal. How could this be happening? I had put everything on the line. I had gone into debt, drained my savings, and practically sold my soul just to save the house. And now Michael was telling me I was the one who made everything worse? I wanted to scream, but I just stood there, fighting the lump in my throat. How did it come to this? Michael was angry, furious even. But it wasn't just the house. It was more than that. It was like he was blaming me for something deeper, something I didn't understand. "Maybe you're right," I finally said, my voice shaky but determined. "Maybe I made a mistake by trying to fix everything. But I'm not. Sorry for doing what I thought was right." His gaze softened, but there was no apology, no remorse. Just cold, quiet anger. "Well, you're going to have to live with that mistake now." That was it. The words were final. I felt the air leave my lungs as I turned away, walking out of the kitchen without another word. The pain was unbearable, but I knew I couldn't stand there any longer, not with him looking at me like that. I stepped outside into the cold air, breathing deeply to calm the storm inside me. I wasn't going to let him win, not like this. Didn't know what the future would hold or how I was going to move forward, but one thing was clear. I wasn't going to stand by while he tore everything down. I'd take back what was mine, no matter the cost. That day, I made a vow to myself. I would fight for what I deserved, even if it meant losing everything in the process. I spent the next few days locked in my thoughts, replaying Michael's words, over and over in my mind. What had I done wrong? Why did it hurt so much? It wasn't just the house. It was everything I thought I knew about loyalty, love, and family. I thought I had it all figured out. But I was wrong. Again. The weight of his betrayal crushed me every time I tried to think. I kept picturing his face, how he stood there, arms crossed, telling me I had ruined everything. Why did it hurt this much? I had done everything for him, for us. Yet, here I was, alone, broken, and lost. I couldn't bring myself to look at the house. Every time I did, it felt like a reminder of my failure. It should have been a place of hope, a symbol of the love I tried so hard to save. But instead, it felt like a tomb. A place where everything I sacrificed now felt pointless. But deep down, I knew that if I gave up now, Michael would win. He had pushed me away, thrown my efforts in my face, and told me I wasn't enough. But I wasn't about to let that happen. Not again. I closed my eyes and squeezed my fists. I can't give up. Not like this. Maybe I should just walk away. I could leave. Find somewhere else, somewhere new, where none of this would matter. Where I could forget him and the house, start fresh, and leave all the pain behind. But as the thought crossed my mind, I felt a pull, a voice inside me that said I couldn't just walk away. I didn't deserve to run from this. I deserved more than to just be pushed aside. Was it worth it? I asked myself. Was saving the house worth everything I sacrificed? Maybe it was foolish to even think I could fix everything. Maybe it was never meant to be fixed. But I have to know. I have. To know I did the right thing. I leaned back against the couch, letting the silence settle in. My mind was a storm, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't find peace. That's when my phone rang. It was Sarah, my best friend. I hadn't talked to her in days. "Hey," I answered, my voice low. "Clara? You okay?" Concern, lacing her words. "Do I sound okay?" I said, my words sharper than I intended. I immediately regretted it. "No, you don't," Sarah replied gently. "What happened with Michael?" I paused, the lump in my throat growing. I could feel the tears threatening to break through. He told me I ruined everything, that I shouldn't have saved the house, that it was my fault things got worse. "Clara, I'm so sorry," Sarah said, her voice soft. "But maybe it's not about fixing everything. Maybe it's about moving forward. You can't keep holding on to something that's dragging you down." I shut my eyes tightly. I can't move on until I know I did the right thing. I need to know that saving the house was worth all the pain. Sarah paused, and I could hear her thinking. "Clara, it sounds like you're punishing yourself. You did what you could. That's all anyone could ask of you." But it wasn't enough. "I wasn't enough," I whispered, feeling the weight of my failure press harder against my chest. "Clara," Sarah's voice cracked. "You did everything for him, for the family. If he can't see that, then maybe it's time to stop caring whether he does." I stayed quiet, letting her words settle. Could I really stop caring? Could I walk away from everything that had hurt me? From Michael? From the house? Or would I always be stuck in this cycle, waiting for a thank you that would never come? "I don't know if I can," I finally admitted. "Then take some time," she said, her tone kind and understanding. "But don't let him control you. Don't let his anger turn you into something you're not." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. The silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken words. Finally, I spoke. "I've made up my mind, Sarah. I'm not walking away. I can't. I'm taking back control, even if it means tearing everything apart." "I understand," she replied softly. "But remember, Clara, you're not doing this alone. I'm here." I smiled, a little broken but grateful. I wasn't sure what came next, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let Michael win. I hung up, feeling a little lighter, though the storm inside me still raged. But I had a plan. And that plan? It wasn't just about fixing things for him. It was about fixing me, even if it meant losing everything. I could feel the fire building inside me, the need to do something, anything. Michael had taken everything from me, and I was going to make him understand the cost of betrayal. It wasn't just about the house. It wasn't just about the things he said. It was about everything: the years of sacrifice, the promises broken, and the trust he destroyed. I needed control. I needed to act. The anger I felt wasn't just a passing emotion anymore. It was a burning need, a force that pushed me to the edge. Every time I thought about the way he turned on me, how easily he dismissed my efforts, I could feel my fists clenching. I wanted him to understand the weight of what he did, and I was going to make sure he did. I could feel myself at a crossroads. Part of me, the part I hated, was urging me to walk away, to leave it all behind and start fresh. But that part of me was smaller now. Forget Michael. Forget the house. Because the bigger part, the one that had been broken, betrayed, and abandoned, was screaming to make him pay. Revenge wasn't just about getting back at Michael. It was about regaining what I had lost. It was about making sure he never thought he could hurt me like this again. And if that meant destroying him, so be it. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the empty space where everything had started to go wrong. My mind was racing with ideas, plans, ways to make Michael realize the consequences of his actions. He wouldn't get away with this. Not after everything I did for him. I wasn't a victim anymore. I was done being the one who just took it, who just forgave. The phone rang and I snapped out of my thoughts. It was Sarah again. "Clara, what's going on?" Her voice was soft, but I could hear the concern. "I'm trying to figure out what to do," I replied, pacing the room. "I can't just let him win. I can't just walk away from everything. Clara, you don't have to fight, you know. You can choose peace." "Peace?" I laughed bitterly, stopping in my tracks. "He betrayed me, Sarah. Peace is not an option right now." I ran my hands through my hair, the frustration boiling inside me. I need him to understand, to feel what I feel. I have to make him understand what he's done. I'm not letting him walk away from this. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Finally, Sarah spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "You know this won't fix anything, right? You'll still be left with all that anger, even if you get your revenge." "I know," I muttered, my voice low. "But it's all I have right now. If I don't do this, if I don't make him feel the pain he's caused, then he'll think he's won, and I can't live with that." I hung up without another word, my mind made up. There was no turning back now. I couldn't stand the thought of living in this limbo anymore. The anger was too powerful, and the need for justice was overwhelming. Began to make plans, small steps to start. First, I would take back control of the house. Then, I would make Michael face the consequences. I didn't know how it would all unfold, but I knew I couldn't just stand here and let him destroy me. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about me reclaiming my power, my life. As I sat down to organize my thoughts, I could feel the weight of the decisions ahead. But for the first time in days, I felt something else, something stronger than the pain. I felt alive. This was the beginning. There was no turning back now. I was going to make sure he understood the cost of betrayal, even if it meant tearing everything apart. I was ready. The first step was easy. I started small, getting back into the house, making sure Michael knew I was there. It felt good to finally take control. After days of feeling helpless, it was a rush to be the one holding the cards, calling the shots. Michael had no idea what was coming. I remember walking through the front door, hearing the familiar creak of the wood beneath my feet, the old smell of the house that once felt like home. But now, it just felt cold. The walls seemed to echo with the weight of what I was about to do. The power I had now was intoxicating. I could feel it in my bones. He thought he could throw me out, take everything from me. Well, it was my turn to take back what was mine. But as the days went on, I realized how much power I had taken from him. It wasn't just the house anymore. It was everything. His security, his comfort, his pride. And with each move I made, I began to feel something I didn't expect. It wasn't victory. It wasn't satisfaction. It was emptiness. Was this really what I wanted? I kept asking myself. Every time I saw him floundering, struggling to make sense of what was happening, a part of me felt hollow. I had taken away his foundation, his stability. But what did it leave me? I had gotten what I wanted, but it wasn't as sweet as I'd imagined. I thought revenge would be a balm to my pain, but instead, it felt like a never-ending ache. His downfall wasn't satisfying. It wasn't even sweet. It was just empty. I stared at the house, the walls closing in on me. I thought about how much he had hurt me, how much I had lost. But at what cost? I asked myself. The house didn't feel like a victory anymore. It was just a weight pressing down on me. Was this worth it? Part of me wanted to stop, to leave things behind, to cut my losses and walk away from the destruction I had caused. But another part of me, the one that had been wronged, refused to let go. There was too much at stake now. I had started this, and there was no going back. I couldn't just let him off the hook, not after everything, not when I had gone this far. I grabbed my phone and called Sarah. She answered on the first ring. Clara, what's going on? You sound off. I don't even recognize myself anymore, I said, pacing around the house. What happened to me? She sighed, her voice soft. You've changed, Clara. But is it for the better? I stopped, staring at my reflection in the mirror. I didn't know. Maybe I had crossed a line I couldn't come back from. I don't know. But I can't stop now. The silence on the other end of the line was heavy, and I knew she didn't have the answers either. I'm in too deep now, I whispered to myself more than to her. There's no going back. And that was the truth. I had burned every bridge, turned every stone. There was no going back. I had the power now. Michael was scrambling to fix the mess I had made of his life. It should have felt good, right? Finally, I was in control. I was the one who held the cards, the one making the moves. But all I felt was emptiness. I walked around the house, feeling the weight of my decisions pressed down on me. The walls, once a place of safety, now felt foreign. It wasn't a victory, not really. Michael's frantic phone calls, his desperation to fix things, didn't fill the hole inside me. I thought taking everything from him would make me feel better. I thought I would get some sense of satisfaction, some closure. But I didn't. All I felt was a hollow victory. Was this the price of justice? I kept asking myself. What had I become? The power shift was clear. Michael was no longer in control. I was. But the power didn't taste sweet. It tasted like regret. It tasted like I had crossed a line I couldn't uncross. I sat down, my phone in my hand. I thought about calling Sarah, but I already knew what she would say. She'd tell me I was hurting myself. She'd tell me to stop. And she'd be right. But could I stop now? Michael wasn't the only one hurting anymore. I was too. I dialed her number and she picked up almost immediately. Clara, hey, how are you? She asked, but I could hear the concern in her voice. I've taken everything from him, I said, the words sounding hollow as they left my mouth. But why doesn't it feel like a win? There was a long pause on the other end. Finally, she spoke. Because revenge isn't the answer, Clara. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. It was true, but it didn't help. Then what is? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She didn't answer right away. And when she did, it was soft, hesitant. I don't know, Clara. But hurting yourself in the process doesn't make things better. I closed my eyes, leaning back, against the chair. The silence was deafening. I had no answer. But I knew one thing. This was only the beginning. When Michael came to me that night, I didn't expect him to apologize. But he did. He stood in front of me, his shoulders hunched, eyes filled with something I hadn't seen in him for a long time. Regret. "I've lost everything," he said, his voice trembling. "I thought I was right, but I wasn't. I was wrong, Clara. I'm sorry." I could hardly believe what I was hearing. The words hung in the air, thick with emotion. Michael, my brother, the one who had betrayed me, was apologizing. For the first time, he wasn't defending his actions. He wasn't blaming me. It felt like everything in the room went still, like the world itself had paused to let this moment sink in. For a second, I didn't know how to react. "Sorry." The Cree? Word felt foreign coming from him, especially after everything that had happened. After everything he had taken from me, seeing him like that, broken, didn't feel like victory. It didn't feel like the sweet revenge I had imagined. Instead, it felt like a reminder of everything I had lost, too. The house, our relationship, our family. What had we become? I wasn't the only one hurt in this fight. As much as I hated him for what he did, I saw the damage in his eyes, the guilt, the regret, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. He looked at me, like he was waiting for something, waiting for me to say something, anything. I don't know what to say, I finally managed. My throat felt tight. "You've taken so much from me, Michael. I don't know if I can ever forgive you." His eyes dropped, and he nodded, like he already knew what I was going to say. "I understand," he whispered, "but I was wrong. I should have never pushed you away. I should have never made you feel like you were the enemy." I closed my eyes, trying to steady my emotions. Should I forgive him? Part of me wanted to, but another part, the part that had been hurt so deeply, was too angry, too scarred. "I don't know if I can ever forgive you, but I can't keep this anger inside me anymore," I said quietly, almost to myself. The words were hard to admit. Letting go of the anger felt like admitting defeat, like surrendering to everything he had done to me. But as the words left my mouth, I realized that holding on to this hate was only hurting me. It was keeping me trapped in the past, in a place I didn't want to be. The anger was eating me alive, and I couldn't let it control me anymore. There was silence between us, heavy and suffocating. He didn't speak, and I didn't know what else to say. We were both standing there, not sure where to go from here. The air was thick with unspoken words, with everything that had happened and everything that still needed to be said. For the first time, I felt the weight of my own choices, the weight of what I had done to get here. And I knew I had to change. We stood there for what felt like an eternity, neither of us moving, neither of us knowing what came next. But for the first time in a long time, the future didn't feel so impossible. I didn't have all the answers. But I knew one thing for sure. The path ahead wouldn't be easy, but it was mine to walk. And maybe, just maybe, we could find a way to fix this. Together. I could feel the storm inside me finally quieting. The anger, the bitterness. It was all fading, like a heavy fog lifting after a long, cold night. I had made my peace with everything that had happened. The weight on my chest wasn't as suffocating as it had been, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. It wasn't that everything was fixed. It wasn't even that everything was okay. But I had finally come to terms with it. I was ready to move forward. Michael had apologized, and while it didn't erase the hurt or the damage he had done, I realized something. I didn't need his apology to heal. I didn't need him to make things right. What I needed was to stop letting his actions control me. I didn't need his approval anymore. I didn't need the house, or the past, or even our relationship. I just needed myself. I found him sitting in the living room that evening, his face unreadable. He didn't say anything at first, and I just stood there, letting the silence stretch between us. The old Clara, the one who craved validation from him, would have stayed silent, waiting for him to speak, hoping for something to fix the rift between us. But I wasn't that person anymore. "I'm moving on, Michael," I said, my voice steady, despite the emotions swirling inside me. "You can't fix what's broken between us, but I'm fixing me." He didn't respond right away, and for a moment, I thought he might say something to stop me, to try and hold me back. But he didn't. "I understand, Clara," he said, his voice rough. "I'll never be able to make it right, but I'll try to be better." It wasn't much, but it was enough. The weight of the past was heavy, but in that moment, I realized I didn't need him to carry it with me anymore. I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time in ages, I didn't feel the need to fix him or to wait for him to fix me. I was my own person now. The future was unknown, but it was mine to shape. I took a deep breath, letting the cool air fill my lungs. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time, I felt ready to face whatever came next. Time passed. Things didn't go back to normal, but they didn't have to. I had learned that I couldn't change the past, but I could control how I moved forward. It took me a long time to get to this point, longer than I thought it would. But here I was, standing in front of the house looking at it with a different perspective. The house didn't hold the same weight anymore. It wasn't a symbol of pain or betrayal. It wasn't my victory either. It was just a building now, nothing more, nothing less. For the first time, I didn't feel resentment or anger when I looked at it. I had rebuilt myself, and the house was no longer a part of that struggle. I realized I didn't need anything from this place to feel whole. I had spent so long holding on to the past, trying to fix something that was never meant to be fixed. But now I understood that the only thing I needed to change was me. As I stood there, staring at the house, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The anger that had consumed me for so long was gone. The bitterness had faded into nothing. It was time to move on. I took a deep breath and turned to leave, my steps light. I didn't need to look back. The phone rang as I walked away. I glanced at the screen. It was Sarah. I answered, knowing she would understand. "Hey," I said, my voice steady, a sense of peace settling inside me. "Clara, how are you?" she asked, her voice soft. "I've learned to let go," I said, feeling the truth of it in my chest. It was never about the house. It was about finding peace inside myself. There was a long pause before she spoke again. "I'm proud of you, Clara. You've come so far." I smiled, even though she couldn't see me. "I'm proud of me, too." We stayed quiet for a moment, but there was no need for more words. I didn't need her to tell me I'd done the right thing anymore. I didn't need anyone's approval. I had found my own peace. As I hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The last chapter had been painful, but it had been necessary. And now it was over. The last chapter was a new beginning for me. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living, and I was ready for whatever came next.